Welcome to the Secrets of Confident Women podcast, where you'll learn all the best tips, tricks, and practical techniques for building the confidence levels you've always wanted. With inspiring interviews, real-life examples, and game-changing insights, this podcast is for women who know that mastering the skill of confidence is one of the most important things they'll ever do.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Secrets of Confident Women. My name is Jodie Bruce Clark, and together with my business partner Anastasia Adams, we run Rise Women, which is a business dedicated to helping women learn practical confidence techniques so that they can increase their confidence and do the amazing things they want to do in their lives. Now, today we are going to talk all about how to change our habits so that we can change confidence. Now, we all know that it's our habits that run our daily lives, whether it be the way we brush our teeth or we dry ourselves out of the shower or the way we drive to work or the millions of other automated things that we do. Basically, anything you can do automatically without really thinking about it, any behavior that has been repeated so often it no longer involves conscious thought, is a habit. And our confidence levels can also be affected by the habits that we have. And today I am thrilled to be interviewing Dr. Gina Cleo on this subject. Gina has a PhD in habit change, specialising in sustainable health and well-being, and is an assistant professor at the Bond University. She holds a Bachelor of Health and Sciences and a Master's of Nutrition and Dietetics. Gina has featured in over 150 media outlets and is a regular keynote speaker and expert panelist at national and international conferences. Today, Gina runs the Habit Change Institute, where she teaches evidence-based strategies for achieving long-term success through the power of habits. So, Gina, welcome to the podcast today and onto the Secrets of Confident Women.
Thank you so much, Jodie. It's so lovely to be here chatting with you today.
Yeah, I'm really been looking forward to this episode because I think this will be something that's, we don't often link confidence, I guess, with that it can be a habit, even though we talk about that quite a bit, but it's getting to the nitty gritty of how to change our habits and what habits are. So I think this will be so valuable today for our listeners. So to start with, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Well, I live on the Gold Coast in Australia, which is a beautiful, sunny place that I love. My career, I actually started as a dietitian about 15 years ago. And I guess my passion for that started because both my grandparents had type 2 diabetes and I wanted to be able to help them live a happier, more satisfied life.
Yeah.
So I studied to be a dietitian, and what I was finding when I was working in clinical practice is that I was really able to help people on a short-term basis. So we would always get results, but what I would often find is 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, they would come back and we would be working to resolve the same concerns that they had when they first came to see me.
Right.
Yeah, and originally I just thought I was a terrible dietitian because I love food. I'm a big-time foodie. I'm Egyptian by background, so I just thought, But then when I started to look at the medical literature, I realized that actually it wasn't just me at all, and that 95% of people who lose weight will regain it. 92% of New Year's resolutions are forgotten by February.
Yeah.
So this whole short-term success, I could see that it was a narrative, but it was a bit of a pattern.
Yeah.
So that's when I put my clinic on hold, actually, and I was invited by Bond University to complete a PhD in sustainable outcomes. And this led me down this wonderful path of habits. And now I've completely dedicated my life and my research and my work to understanding habits, but also educating others on habits. Because although, as you said earlier, habits influence so much of our life.
Oh, my goodness. Everything. It's everywhere,
crazy.
Really, isn't it, when you start looking at it? Yeah.
Yeah, but interestingly, we've only been researching habits for the past 10 years.
Right.
So it's still a fairly novel space in the research world.
Right. So what does confidence, because this is the confidence podcast, this is one of our questions we ask everyone. What does confidence or being a confident woman mean to you?
Oh, I think confidence to me means the absence of doubt. It's not thinking twice. It's not thinking, am I, could I, should I? I think when you're confident, you think, of course I deserve this. Of course it's come to me. Of course I'll get paid this much. Of course I should negotiate this.
Yeah.
It's, I think if I was to summarize it, it would be the absence of doubt.
Yeah. Oh, that's I haven't really heard it put like that before, but I love it. And it is. It's when you have that belief that you just like, you're on the right track and you what you're doing, but that I should be paid this much and I deserve everything that's coming my way, which is great. And when do you find you're the most confident version of yourself?
You'll probably cringe at this because this is most people's biggest fear. But for me, I feel the most confident when I'm presenting. When I'm teaching.
No, I don't cringe. I've said that so many times. I really,
Have you?
Yeah, because I love being on stage, but the majority of the population do not.
That's it. Yeah, people always ask, aren't you nervous? Aren't you scared? And I'm like, no, I can't wait. Just get me up there. I feel like when you're stepping into your skill and your passion, it's a default for it to be your happy place. Yeah. So that's my happy place.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's good. No, completely. I've often said before that I feel like I'm the most me on a stage. Like it's just the place, I feel so most comfortable. Feel mostly what I'm, what my purpose is and what I'm supposed to be sharing with people. But no, I completely get it. But as we said, a lot of people do not.
It's so nice to meet someone else who's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk habits. So how long does it take to form a new habit or essentially break an old habit?
Yeah, so most people have heard that it takes about 28 days.
Yes.
And, that's what mainstream media and society have always told us. But actually, that's not true at all. That was a study done in the 1960s, and it wasn't actually relevant at all to habits, but it's somehow just been sort of passed down the generations. The truth is, it takes on average 66 days to change a habit, and that's and that's either forming a new one or breaking an old one.
Right.
But there's sort of more to it than that. Because there's a big range. It takes anywhere from 18 days to 254 days to change a habit.
Right.
And why there's such a big range is because the easier the habit is that you're trying to create, the quicker it'll develop.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to change a behavior that's quite complex or it's quite ingrained in your lifestyle, well, that'll take a bit longer than a habit you might have just acquired more recently or a simpler habit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that's and it is a big range, and it is a big, because I guess sometimes we've been caught in that trap of, I've heard it at 21, 28, all those sort of things, but you sort of think, if I just get to that date,
yes,
it'll be over.
I'll make it.
And then it's not necessarily that's the case, but it's good to know that we just need to sort of keep going until we get more of that habit change feeling or.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that feeling is, did I just do this automatically without thinking about it?
Right.
Or does it feel strange if I don't do that?
Yeah, right.
If that starts to feel strange, and I can say for most people having a cup of coffee or a tea in the morning, does it feel strange if you don't do that?
Yes.
Most people will say yes. Well, then you know that that's a habit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so why do we actually form habits?
We form habits because we make 35,000 decisions every single day.
Yes.
And if you think, it's crazy amount.
Yeah.
If you think, if we had to consciously make every one of those decisions, we would be exhausted before we've even gotten out of bed.
Right.
So habits are there to preserve mental energy. Because if we can automate things, if we can put things on autopilot, then we don't actually have to use any mental energy or mental resources to action those things.
Right.
So our mind just goes, works for me, so I'm just going to make that into a habit. I'll put that into the habit brain space so that I've got more energy and brain space to think about other more important things like, what do I make for dinner tonight, or what should we do on the weekend?
Right. So it's just creating like an automated system so that your brain can focus on when it does need to be really focused and thinking about something that's not a habit.
Exactly. Yeah, things that we don't do every day.
Yes, right. And I talk to clients all the time about habits, and that they're not working for them and affecting their confidence. Like when they hesitate to put their hand up in a meeting, like that comes up all the time, and share their ideas. I sort of call it the habit loop, that they've just got themselves caught into this habit loop that they think, oh, I should share, but then, they've already taught their brain sort of not to put their hand up. They hesitate that little bit longer. So what are some ways that we can actually break our old habits, the ones that aren't, that aren't serving us, like, wanting to share or do all those things that affect us in either the workplace or other areas of our lives that do affect our confidence?
Yeah, I love that you've used the word the habit loop, because once you understand the habit loop, you can understand how to break habits. So I'll run through it quickly.
Yeah, great.
The habit loop includes, when you're forming a habit or when you have a habit, it's going to include 3 key ingredients, and that is a trigger, the habit, and then a reward. So that's the habit loop. It's trigger, routine, reward. And the trigger, that's what initiates that habit. It's what gives you the impulse or the urge to then do the actual habit. So as an example with the coffee, so the trigger is waking up in the morning, and the routine is making a coffee, and the reward is generally feeling more awake or having a warm, hearty drink. Yeah. So that's the habit loop. And what happens in a situation like you're mentioning, where you might not put your hand up in a meeting or you're hesitating to share an idea, is the trigger is, I've got an idea, but you've also got a fear response. So there's potentially a fear of rejection or a fear of making, looking silly, or your idea being shut down. So the routine, instead of to vocalize your idea, becomes to stay quiet. And the reward is that you didn't put yourself out there and potentially put yourself in harm's way. And I say with inverted commas. Yeah. So we actually we exacerbate our anxiety. We make it worse by not putting our hand up, because oftentimes if we do share in a meeting, what we think is going to happen is not at all what's going to happen. No. Even if someone thinks your idea is silly, they might just nod and smile and move on. And it's not nowhere near as dramatic as it is generally in our mind. Yeah. But so the way to break that, there's 2 ways to break a habit. So going back to the habit loop with the trigger, routine, and reward, the trigger will generally stay the same because we're in a meeting and that'll be the trigger. But the routine has to change. So you actually have to say to yourself, and I would do this before you enter the meeting, is you would say to yourself, I'm going to share one thing in this meeting, and you would actually set yourself that goal. Or I'm going to put my hand up one time. And so when that I guess the urge to want to say something comes up, then it's a matter of just doing it. And it's uncomfortable. It's going to feel really strange. But the reward that comes from that is oftentimes greater than if you were to just sit back and do nothing. Sometimes the reward is, you know what, I'm so proud of myself for taking that step, even though it felt really uncomfortable. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's one way. The other way to break a habit, which wouldn't be so relevant in this situation, but it's to remove the trigger altogether. So in a situation where we're saying, for example, so the trigger might be on my way home from work, I might stop into a fast food chain and grab a meal, and that's not something that I want to do. So I would remove the trigger by potentially driving a different way home. Right. And not actually so not like being faced with the fast food chain. Yeah, removing temptation. Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
I know I do that with chocolate a lot. It's like it's better just not being in the house, and then the trigger of I want something sweet, and then if it's not there, it's not there. Okay, great. And that's really interesting, because it's good that I've been talking about this hesitation loop, and it's good to get clear on those different parts to it, because it is, I think it's pushing through and seeing that you're right, that sort of trigger or being in that meeting is not going to change necessarily, but you can change your response to what you have been doing, and it gets easier as you do that. Is that what you find with the habit thing? Once you start and you push yourself through that one time you put your hand up, And it's, you might be really nervous and scared and there's all these different feelings. But the more you do that, the easier that sort of gets. Is that what you find with the hesitation loop?
Most of the time it actually only takes one good experience to
right.
reinforce that positive habit of actually putting the hand up again. Because
right.
the reward of feeling good is much greater than the reward of feeling good that you didn't make your anxiety worse by not putting your hand up. And so if you had just one good experience, your brain will go, hey, that wasn't so bad. And it actually reduces that fear response next time.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more confidence you just naturally start to build.
Yeah.
We call it the positive feedback cycle or positive feedback loop.
Right.
So when you feel good, your brain goes, hey, let's do that again. And it's just a chemical thing that happens. So you'll be more encouraged. You'll be much less hesitant to do it again the next time.
Yeah.
But the hardest time, of course, as with most things we want to change, is the first time.
Yes.
That's the hardest time.
Yeah.
And that's why setting that goal is a really good idea. And I call it an implementation intention.
Yeah.
It's actually being intentional about implementing a goal. It's saying, I'm going to be in this meeting, and although I'm going to feel, I'm not going to feel very confident about putting my hand up, but you would actually say, when I'm feeling that lack of confidence, I still will put my hand up.
Yeah, right.
And it's being real about that experience. There's no point going, saying things to yourself like, I'm going to feel more confident today. Because the reality is you're probably not.
No.
But it's good to say, I'm not going to feel confident, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's how we build genuine confidence.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about moving into action. Like you build confidence. Like it doesn't just turn up one day and go, hey, I'm here now, get on with your life and do what you want to do. It's really about putting things into action, because we talk about action makes everything happen. So it's that putting your hand up, pushing through that fear barrier, just doing things that you start to feel positive about yourself, or that you get proud of yourself, that you got, I set that intention and I did it today, even if it was something small. And it's interesting you talk about the positive feedback loop, even as it's something I guess for managers or staff, managers of staff or anyone who runs a meeting to also be, or in any areas, when someone does, push through that and, start to participate in a meeting that they haven't before, it's really, I guess, acknowledging that too and allowing that space for everybody to feel comfortable in something like a meeting, that we get, everyone to share ideas and everyone to participate, and that it's comfortable, that they get positive feedback from that, because that then encourages that sharing to happen again.
Yes, exactly right. So I think it's also good for us to, when we're in a meeting, to make everybody feel like they're welcome and their opinions are important and valuable, because I think they always are.
Absolutely. So what about negative thinking? This is something we've done lots of podcasts on. It's one of those things that comes up all the time in the coaching I do and different things. We always focus on what the negative thinking is. Is this a habit, and can we break it?
It can certainly be a habit, because we often think of habits like our behaviours, the things we do, like eating breakfast or not, or smoking or not, or having a glass of wine, or exercising after work. We often think of behaviours, but actually the way we think is often always habitual as well.
Right.
So if we are more if our disposition moves us more towards negative thinking, then we will continue to do that. And the first step to breaking that is awareness, is actually being aware of the things that you're saying or thinking about yourself. And the way I say it to people is, if they're not sure if it's like a really negative thing or just them being realistic about something, I would say, if you were to stand in front of, if you're on a stage in front of 10,000 people, would you share that thought with somebody, or would you say that thought to somebody else? And that's the real, I really better analyze this thought moment. So I think with that, once you've got the awareness, then it's about replacing it. So this is where the trigger will be the same, but the routine, which is the negative thinking, needs to change. So an idea might be, you walk into a meeting and you might think, I'm the stupidest person here. I know the least here.
Yeah.
Or for a lot of women, it's more, I'm the biggest person here, and might actually be more of a physical insecurity that then creates even further negative thinking.
Yeah.
So that, and then it would be actually replacing that thought, or even putting some rationality into it. So, you'll still walk into that meeting because that's what you have to do as part of your role.
Yeah.
But being aware of the negative thoughts is actually saying to yourself, when that thought comes, and it still will come, you might challenge it. You might say, who says I'm the stupidest person here?
Exactly.
Or if I don't know the most, well, I'm here to learn, and I'm really grateful to still be included and to be part of this.
Yeah.
It's bringing in that self-compassion, it's that kindness, and being more, it's so hard because our thoughts can often be an emotional response to something. We're not always in control of them, but we can certainly try to put in that logic and to put in, I guess again, it's thinking, would I say this to a friend?
Yeah.
Or what gives me the okay to give this to myself? And with habits, if you think of your brain, it's full of these neural pathways.
Mm-hmm.
And neural pathways are like roadmaps. And the more you do something or the more you think something, the bigger and wider the road is.
Yes.
And the less you do something, the smaller the road is. So the thoughts that you have every now and then are like little back alleyways.
Yeah.
But the thoughts that you have on a daily basis will be more like freeways.
Yeah.
But the less you do something, or the less that road is being traveled, then the smaller it gets until eventually it disintegrates and the neural pathway actually dies off.
Right. Great.
You have to just do it less and less and less and less and less and less. And there's not a time frame for that, because there'll always be times where the thought slips in, or you might entertain the thought a bit. But it's certainly a process of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and just being consistent. Habits are all about consistency and not intensity.
Right. And that we've got different exercises like power mantras and different things that we help someone form a power mantra or a new thought. And then we all often talk about, it's the repetition of that as well. They've got to start creating, like, as you say, like that new neural pathway, that new superhighway for the new thought, to then that become something that just is there. That's their default place the default thinking to have, because these negative thoughts, and some of them, people have been thinking for 10 or 20 or longer, 20 years or longer. So they're big superhighways. And, I often find people, they do around positive thinking, and people say to me, I tried that positive thinking for a couple of days, didn't work for me. And I think, oh my goodness, a couple of days, that's not going to help. That's not going to change the negative thoughts you've been running for, 30 years. It's got to be that much more repetition than just a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. It's got to really change those thoughts.
It's long term. And I often say to people, it didn't take overnight for you to think this way, and it's not going to be overnight that you rewind this thinking as well. It takes time, and you have to be committed to the process. But it's such a rewarding end result, and that's what we've got to keep in mind. The process is not a quick fix, but it is a permanent solution, and that's the beauty of habits. But at the same time, this is what makes habits not a sexy topic, because I can't promise you great success in a fortnight's time.
No.
It's just not how habits work.
Yeah.
But I can offer you a life of freedom long term if you just commit to the steps of the habit change in the short term.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Oh, I love talking about neural pathways. It's just one of my passions. I always talk about, I'm that really strange person on the beach reading something about neuroscience or whatever, when everyone's reading interesting sort of stories. I'm always like reading the strangest books ever. But and it was funny, even a couple of weeks ago, we went the school holiday, because I'm talking about neural pathways to my kids all the time, and about and I think we went back it was in 4th term, and we went back to school, and I'd forgotten to make my son's lunch the first day, and I was like, right, oh. And then the second day, he's like, have you made my lunch, Mum? I'm like, oh, no, because we just had 2 weeks off. And I wasn't back into the routine of it. And he said, it's all right, Mum. You've just got to wait till your neural pathway gets back on track. And I was like, oh, my goodness, my 11-year-old's talking about neural pathways. It's hilarious.
What a proud moment that would have been for you.
I know. He'd served it right back up to me because I'm always going, it's a neural path. You got to do it, do more repetition to build the neural pathway. And he served it right back to me with not making his lunch. So
I love that so much.
It's funny.
So fantastic.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what about forming new habits that we actually do want in our lives? And I talk to lots of sort of women about, oh my goodness, like networking meetings is a big one that they know they want to go to and they don't, or making sales calls, when that, again, a bit of that hesitation comes in. And anything that we know will help our businesses or our career, or even in life, like habits that we do want in our lives. What are the practical techniques that we can use to do that, to put these good habits in?
Beautiful. So when you think back to the habit loop with the trigger, routine, reward, the first part of that is the trigger. So I think what we often do when we're trying to change a behavior or create a new habit is we go, I'm just going to do it. And we depend on our memory and our willpower and our motivation level. Yeah. And none of those are actually going to help us. You will forget. You will have days where you have really no willpower or self-control.
Yes.
And you might not feel motivated. Motivation goes up and down all the time.
Oh, my goodness, all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Yes.
So if we're depending on those three things, we are not going to make it long-term. And this is the biggest difference between changing a behavior and changing a habit. So a habit is actually attaching a trigger to it. So it might actually be, say these networking meetings happen on a monthly basis. It'll be on the last Friday of the month, let's say that's when they're on the last Friday of the month, I will go to a networking meeting. So you actually would put, again, that implementation intention. And it's when I will. It's when the meeting is on, I will attend.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and the reward is sometimes just the fact that you did it and you just tick it off and you're like, I'm actually really proud of myself for doing that. But the reward has to be a good feeling.
Yes.
So you actually have to take that mindful moment to be proud of yourself and to be happy that you took that step.
Right.
Yeah, and that is where the habit is reinforced. It's when you produce those good feelings, it's those happy hormones that you release.
Yeah.
That's when the brain goes, hey, this made me happy, so I'm going to do that again.
And I reckon that's a step that a lot of people forget, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we just often, because
brush
past we're from one thing to the next. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, cool, did that. All right, what's next? Without actually stopping and going, hey, even if it's just it takes 5 seconds just to go, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really hard step for me. I've been procrastinating and putting it off for so long. And I finally did it.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's how we form those habits.
Yeah. And
in life, there's an example I like to give to illustrate how habits are formed. So let's say that each time you get home in the afternoon, you grab a snack. Let's say it's a cookie.
Yeah.
Each time you come home, you grab a cookie. And so then now your brain's associated getting home with eating a cookie. And you really love the taste and texture of these cookies. So that's the reward.
Yes.
So every time you eat a cookie in response to getting home, that link in your brain, that neural pathway strengthens and it gets bigger to the point where just thinking of getting home prompts you to eat a cookie.
Yes.
The neural pathway starts firing before you're even home.
Yeah. It's
and
entrenched.
That's the urge. Exactly. It's entrenched. And that's the impulse and the urge that we feel. But we get home and we say to ourselves, I'm not going to eat the cookie. And before we know it, we're standing at the kitchen bench and there's 3 cookies in our mouth and we haven't even thought about it.
Yeah.
I think what happens is, so now it's become second nature. It's something you're doing subconsciously without thinking. And then we get down on ourselves when we're like, why did I eat the cookie? I really didn't want to today. But what needs to change there is the trigger. We focus so much on not eating the cookie. But if we remember the habit loop, it starts with a trigger. So we actually need to address the trigger,
right,
which is getting home and walking straight to the kitchen.
Right.
So if we were to get home and walk into the bedroom, get changed, do 5 minutes of meditation, whatever it might be, just to change the neural pathway, to change the regular routine, then that urge for the cookie falls away, because no trigger, no routine.
Right.
It's trigger, routine, reward happens in a split-second sequence.
Yes.
And if we disrupt that sequence, that's how we disrupt the habit pathway. So that's how our habits are developed. We've found a trigger that we generally will react or do a routine in response to. So for us to form a habit, we have to find a trigger. Instead of just saying, I'll do this more, no, you have to say, at this time of day, or when I'm in that place, or when I'm doing this thing, I will, and then you attach the habit that you want to create to the trigger. So that's how it's done.
Yes. And it's being really conscious of it, isn't it? That's what I'm sort of hearing from you, rather than just, again, hoping that our motivation or our willpower carries us through, which it often doesn't. That's why you were saying at the beginning, so many News resolutions just do not survive, do not last the distance, do not even make it to February. It's because we haven't really consciously thought about how and actually planned out that trigger and how to make that new habit really form. And it sounds like it's got to just be a much more conscious focus.
Absolutely. At the beginning, definitely, it's got to be really conscious. You've got to be mindful of it. That's why tools like a habit tracker are excellent. So you can Google habit tracker, and you can Google image and print one off for free. Or there's plenty of habit apps that you can use. But the beauty of these is they help to hold you accountable and it helps you to bring more mindfulness into the activity that you want to create. And, when you're young and you get a gold star for doing something good. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, Jodie, we don't actually grow out of that.
Right.
And when you give yourself a tick for doing something that you wanted to do, that helps your brain to feel good, and it helps that reinforcement.
Oh, I'm the big, and Anastasia is as well. We're the biggest paper list followers. We've never we've tried online things. It's not the same as I highlight through it, highlight through my to-do list. It is so satisfying to see, where you're up to. And that's just that's the getting through, and it gives you get reward. That's the reward for, being productive or getting through what I needed to do in the day. But if I don't have that, if I don't have that ability to highlight through the list going, yes, that's completed, it is, it's disappointing. I've missed a part of the process. And as I said, I've tried online ones that you tick it off and then it disappears. And I was like, oh no, I want to see that I've, ticked off all these things. I don't want to just see the focus on how much you've got left to do. I want to see what I've already done. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it works for different people. I prefer also the tick, but I also like to have it with me all the time. So I'm more likely to have my phone with me. So I find having the app works better.
Yes,
but it's
I'll have
really
to look into those.
Personal preference. Yeah, there's plenty around.
Yeah. I know with doing like drinking more water and stuff, they always say put something on your desk and tick that glasses of water off or what have you, so that you can try to get that as the new habit into your brain. But it's well, I want to drink 8 glasses a day and I'm up to 5, and then you get that sort of reward. Oh, I'm nearly there, and all those sorts of things really work.
Yeah, it's a great thing. And you were saying before about having to be conscious and mindful, and that is very true, but it's only until the habit becomes automatic and subconscious. So that level of, I guess, the motivation and the mindfulness is really important when you're developing a habit. But once it's developed, you don't need mindfulness, because we know that habits are subconscious. They're our autopilot.
Yeah.
So gradually it'll become less and less mindful, and that's what we want. But that's what takes that consistency and perseverance.
Yes. Awesome. Oh, it's so important, I think, for confidence and especially the women that we work with, and that the focus on that changing, because they're either with us in coaching or maybe listening to this podcast, because they know that confidence or doing certain things they're not feeling confident about. So it's so good to see that science of this is the process to work through to actually be able to build our confidence, to change whatever's happening in that area, whether it be, not making a sales call or negative thinking, repeatedly saying, oh, I'm no good at this, I'm useless or what have you, that we can actually consciously focus on that and realize that we always talk about, especially with the negative thinking, helping people to realize that just because they had the thought does not make it true. So it's separating that, if they say, oh, I'm useless, or that's that negative thinking, that the negative thought that goes through their mind so often. It's not true, and it's just a habit that you've created. And I think when you can see it like that, it takes the intensity, I guess, off it, that it's not, it didn't make it true. It's just you've run this neural pathway so often that it feels like it's the natural, it feels like it's true. It feels like this is what your brain is saying, but it just
almost
because
becomes your identity.
Yes,
Yeah,
and people do
not.
identify. I've heard the worst things people have said to them over the years, but it's really focusing back on it doesn't make it true. It just feels like that's your automated response because you've created the habit. And if you created the habit of saying that to yourself, you can uncreate that habit. You'll create something else that's more powerful, that will give you a great life. Because, saying you're useless or hopeless or any of these awful words constantly to yourself is just not going to give you the life that you deserve,
No, it's not serving you at all. And I guess it's really important to know that, an old dog can learn new tricks.
Yes.
Our brains are constantly reshaping and reforming. Every day our brain changes.
Yeah.
And so it's really knowing that although this feels like it's part of who you are, this thought pattern is part of what you do, and it's, you wouldn't even know a life without it. I guess it's really knowing that your brain can change and you can be completely separated, and it can be so far from you that it's no longer part of your routine in any way, because the brain is completely capable of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love it. And I really hope, again, the listeners really hear and start to see this change, that you can really work through just a conscious process for this to start changing these habits that aren't serving us, and also to create these new ones that we know do make a difference to our confidence or do make a difference to our lives, to start putting that process in. So awesome. Oh my God, so much great learning today, and thank you so much for sharing. Now we're moving on to I've got our Rise Women final power questions that we ask all our guests. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. What do you wish every woman knew?
I wish every woman knew the freedom and liberation of a life built around good habits.
Yes. Oh, wow. Wouldn't that be great? Absolutely. And what is your superpower?
My superpower is how organized I am.
Good. Yes.
My organization skills are next level.
Mine too. To the point it almost annoys people. But yes, I don't know how people cope without being organised, I've got to say.
Honestly, I wouldn't remember anything if I wasn't organised.
No. Okay, good. Yes, high intensity organising skills.
Yes.
Heels or flats? Are you a heels or a flats girl?
Definitely flats,
Yes.
unless I'm going to a wedding, and then I always wear heels for weddings. Otherwise, flats all the way.
Yes. Okay. Even presenting? Do you present in flats?
Even presenting.
Do you?
Mostly I'll wear like really nice, fancy flats.
Nice.
I mean, I'm pretty tall, so I tend to just go with flats. And I like comfort. I way prefer comfort over beauty.
Yes, good. Your favourite quote or rule to live by?
My favourite quote is, "We become what we want to be by consistently being what we want to become each day."
Oh, yes. Love that.
There's just such a grace and ease of these small daily actions. And it's just a reminder that it's about consistency of just doing what we want to do each day, and how that becomes who we are. It becomes our identity in time.
Yeah. Awesome. And who inspires you and why?
My greatest inspiration would be the strong women in my life. I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by so many incredible, strong, persevering, tenacious women.
Yeah.
From my mum to so many of my friends to my colleagues. And they are forever my inspiration. And they're really paving the way to show that women are capable of anything.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely. Yeah, awesome. I know, and it's surrounding yourself and having those influences in your life that we talk a lot about as a confidence technique, because it's so important to be able to see and feel and hear and be around women that are up to something, that are really, really doing stuff, and it gives you that real confidence and boost that, oh, I could do it too, you know?
Oh, it's so empowering.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And the last one, finish this sentence. If I had even more confidence than I do now, I would initiate more business-related ventures. There you go. Yes.
I think I would put myself out there more.
Yeah.
I get many opportunities, and I'm so fortunate with what I do to be the only, one of the only Australian researchers that study habits. So I'm really fortunate in, I've got a niche field, and it seems to attract a lot of work and collaboration. But at the same time, when I look back, there's probably not a lot that I initiated. And I think if I had more confidence, I'd probably be more targeted with my business-related ventures.
Well, anything's possible. Get your trigger. Start the routine.
I love it.
Oh, Gina, well, thank you so much for talking to us about habits today. It's been such an honour to hear your research, and for you to, as one of the only Australian researchers, to give your time to come on to our podcast today. So we really, really thank you for your information and your time and your expertise to help us all learn a little bit more about habits and how we can make and break them.
Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me. I've had such a ball speaking to you today, Jodie. It's been really fun. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you to everyone for listening today. And remember, there are so many ways that we can help you become the confident woman you've always wanted to be. So please get in touch with us or visit us at risewomen.com. We want to ensure that confidence is every woman's new normal. And we do that by getting our programs and resources out to as many women as we can. So until next time, remember, with confidence, anything is possible. Bye for now.